I'm back with another very specific trope recommendation. This used to be my entire channel, and I'm bringing it back. Look at this massive stack of books. This is probably my biggest trope recommendation I've ever done, because today I'm doing romances set in small towns. I'm so excited. I didn't realize this was a niche trope that I enjoyed until I was putting the books together for it, and I realized I had this many to recommend. So I should probably just get right into it. If you like small town romances, this is the video for you. Starting off with a series that I recently read because I heard it was small town romances. I'd never read from this author before, but apparently her entire backlist is all small town romance. So I need to dive deeper into that, but this is the Eden's Trilogy by Devney Perry. Indigo Ridge, Garnet Flats, oh, it's out of order. Indigo Ridge, Juniper Hill, and Garnet Flats. I don't know if they're gonna do more books. I think she's going to, but for now, this is what's out, and I read them, and I really enjoyed them. So the first one is Winslow moves to this small town, and she's becoming the chief of police, and there's kind of like a murder investigation going on at the same time because somebody is found on this man's property, and she's investigating it. But they also had a one-night stand like a few months ago, so now there's like awkward tension between them. His family is like one of like the founding families of the town. She's a newbie, but her grandpa lives there. They're kind of forced to like see each other because of this whole murder investigation that's going on. That's the first book. The second book was actually my favorite in the series. This is a single mom trope. She's moving to a small town to kind of escape her old life. And when she gets there, she's renting out property from Knox, who doesn't really want her there, but now they're in forced proximity and they slowly start building a relationship. He has a past that he's hiding from her, and it's a reason why he doesn't want to get close to her. And then she's just trying to get by, and he sees how she's struggling and he helps her, and he's so protective of her. And this book was really, really cute. The way they describe Knox in this is being like tall and having stubble and covered in tattoos. The last book, Garnet Flats, this is a second chance romance. And then these are all about siblings, by the way. Like each book follows a different sibling of the Eden family. So this is about two of the sons, this is one of the daughters. So you get like that family tie-in. And in this one, basically she is reunited with her first love, but they had like this huge falling out, and he ended up marrying her best friend. And so there's so much drama there, and you're trying to figure out like why he would do this to her when he claims he loves her. And then there's a whole backstory there, and it's their second chance romance. It's One of Us's famous trope. That's the Eden series so far. Definitely the small town vibe where the family kind of like knows everyone and people are moving into the town and romances are happening. Next is a duet. It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. These are both small town romances with kind of the One of Us's famous trope as well. In the first book, Piper gets in trouble with her family, and she is forced to move to like the town she was born in and given some responsibility of like opening up a bar and starting it from scratch because she's never really worked. She just kind of parties, whatever. She's famous, she's a socialite. She moves there and she meets this fisherman. It's Grumpy Sunshine. As much as he acts like he hates her, he develops such a soft spot for her. It's opposites attract, and it's so cute. And then the second book is about her sister and his best friend. So they're all kind of connected. This is a friends to lovers, but there's so much chemistry between them. You're like, are you ever even friends? Like, I know you guys just want to like jump each other's bones, so are you even friends? This is like a long build-up that starts in this book and then slowly unfolds in this one. This is forced proximity. She ends up moving in with him while they're still friends. There's jealousy in this a lot because she's working with a guy that likes her. I love the small town setting. It's set in like the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, that's by Tessa Bailey. While we're on the topic of Tessa Bailey, I'll just do an honorable mention of Fix Her Up and Tools of Engagement. There's another book in this series, but I don't own it, and I read this one out of order. But yeah, these are also set in a small town. This one is forced proximity. He works with her. This one is brother's best friend. So, two good tropes, two cute books. I feel like Tessa Bailey books are always just like good to me. It's never like, oh my god, exceptional. And they're also like very unexpectedly spicy. Like sometimes I'm like, this is a little much for me. Like I don't need all these details, but to each their own. Oh, I love this book so much. I'll use any excuse to talk about it. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So good. And it's like a long one too. And I'm pretty sure the second book has just got announced. But this one is Grumpy Sunshine, and she moves to this town escaping her old life. But when she gets there, people keep calling her by the wrong name, and she comes to realize that her twin sister, who's like crazy and she hasn't seen in years, used to live in this town. And her sister, when I say crazy, is fucking crazy, and everyone hates her. So then everyone's being mean to the main girl, and she's like, no, I promise I'm just her twin sister. Please be nice to me. Single parent trope, kind of. The main grumpy guy lets her live on a house on his property. Common theme in these small town romances. So there's forced proximity. She also works at the bar he owns. Very good. I really liked the buildup of this one. It's a slow burn. If you want to read any of these books, books, read this one. Next, a Mariana Zapata classic, All Roads Lead Here. If we're on the slow burn wave, you need to read this. I love everything by Mariana Zapata, but this is one of my favorites. It's just so good. Again, she moved onto this man's property in this small town. He's a single dad whose son ends up being the one renting her out the property, and he had no idea, and so he does not want her there. She kind of develops a bond with his son, and he sees that, and there's a slow burn, and it's Grumpy Sunshine, and it's so good. I think it might be age gap, and she's coming back to this town because her mom went missing, I think, and she's trying to figure out what happened. But yeah, the build up, oh, you know Mariana Zapata just does that build up so good, where it's like it takes forever for them to actually be together, but the little moments that build up to it make it so worth it because you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time. There's so much like chemistry between them. I'm not even gonna talk a lot about this one because you know it's one of my favorites. Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is like the good innocent boy trope. I did a whole video on that trope if you want to watch that, but this is one of my favorite books ever. The tension, the chemistry, and the angst is just so good. I don't want to get too into this because I talk about it so much, but it does take place in a small town, and everyone in the town is like, Archer is so weird, don't talk to him, and Bree's like new to the town, and she's like, why does everyone think he's weird? I thought he was cool when I met him. And it's their romance. Next is another duet. This is The Confidence of Wildflower and The Resurrection of Wildflowers by Michaela Smeltzer. This is next door neighbor trope. I remember the age gap I didn't love in this. I don't really remember how much the difference is, but she babysits his son, and then they fall in love, and she's like the neighbor, and he's really trying to like avoid it, but like it's undeniable how much they like each other. I also wanted to include that she is a boyfriend from her school throughout the entire first book, so there's a lot of jealousy with that. That's like a whole part of the plot. Most of the first book is just them like trying to avoid this connection they have between each other, but there's like a build up throughout it. But she is a boyfriend, and I feel like jealousy trope, important to tell you about. And then there's a huge plot twist that I was not expecting at all, and then there's a time jump. And then it's the second book, and it's like a second chance romance. But oh my god, like it was so out of pocket, this plot twist. Okay, next is two Emily Henry books, Book Lovers and Beach Read. You've probably already read this, so I'm just gonna quickly summarize it, but set at a lake house. January's dad had passed away, so she's moving into his house to kind of go through all his stuff. She also is a writer, so she's writing a book. Turns out her next door neighbor is her college rival, Augustus. He is also a writer, and they're both in a writer's block, and they come up with this like plan to kind of help each other. Then they're just like forced to hang out all the time. Really cute quotes, really good book. This one is just like such a memorable book to me. Like I'll never forget reading this, and like the vivid setting I have in my head, and the characters and the build up. And Emily Henry is just an amazing author, and she also wrote Book Lovers. Sorry, I have the British cover. I got this when I was in England. Both the main characters, they work at a publishing house, I think, in New York City, and they love being in New York City. And Nora is like super dedicated to her job, but I forget, she like takes time off to go on a vacation with her sister, and they go to this really small town where their favorite writer is from. And when she's there, her like publishing rival is also there. And it turns out he's from that small town, and they start this little romance in this small town, and it's kind of like rivals to lovers, reverse Grumpy Sunshine kind of. But yeah, I thought it was really good, and I loved both of these. Definitely the small town vibe. Next, another one of my favorites is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This takes place in like rural Alaska. Calla goes there because she finds out her dad, who she hasn't seen since she was a baby, is sick. So she wants to spend his last months with him. So she goes to Alaska to live with him, and she meets Jonah, and he works for her dad. He's a pilot. He hates her right off the bat because he's like, she's just a city girl, she doesn't get it. He's so mean to her at first. It gives enemies to lovers for a little while, but you can tell he's just so attracted to her, and he's just trying to play it off by being mean. And over time, a relationship unfolds. I cried in this book because of her fucking dad. Like, it gets sad. And this actually is a series, and I haven't read the rest of it, but you get to like see how their relationship turns out after this book, but I haven't read it. But yeah, this one had me like full butterflies, toes curling, so excited for them to finally be together. Like the tension was off the charts, and I loved it. Next is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This takes place at a summer lake house. It's past and present perspective, second chance romance, and you're trying to find out why they stopped being together in the first place, and then you slowly find out through the past and present perspectives. But she comes back into town because his mom passes away, and they haven't seen each other in years. You're watching them fall in love when they were younger, throughout all these summers at this lake house, and then again as adults when she comes back for his mom's funeral, and she stays there. But yeah, this book takes place over the course of 6 years, and it's really good. Next, Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I really liked this book actually. It's about this girl named Kenna who something horrible happened to her, and she ended up in jail, and she lost custody of her daughter. And so she's coming back after getting out and trying to get her daughter back, but her daughter now lives with her in-laws. It's this whole story, and she ends up like changing her whole identity, moving to this small town, trying to find a way to get her daughter back. There is just so much drama, and so many people have so many things against Kenna because of what happened, and no one really knows what happened, and you just feel so bad and desperate for her. Like, the pain I felt for her to just get her daughter back was unmatched. But how the boy comes in, Ledger, is her ex-husband's best friend. He has like this idea of who she is, and he doesn't know it's her because she changed her name, and it's their romance. There's so much more to the story. You're trying to figure out how she ended up in jail in the first place, but yeah. Next, Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I read this a while ago, don't remember much about it, but I do know it was a small town romance, and it took place at like a Renaissance fair. Emily moves to this small town because I'm pretty sure her sister got in an accident, and so now she has to take care of her niece, and her niece is in this Renaissance fair through her school, so Emily signs up to be in it as well. And then she meets one of the teachers who's working at it, and it's their romance, and I think it's enemies to lovers. They don't get along. He's like rude to her, but they're like in forced proximity. They work together at this Renaissance fair, and over time there's buildup, there's jealousy, so that's that. Next is Bad Intentions by Charlie Rose. This is about Lo, who moves to this small town. She's moving in with her dad, who I'm pretty sure she hasn't seen since she was a kid. She's had a really rough upbringing, basically takes care of her and her brother by herself, and now they're moving in with her dad, who they barely know. She gets a job working at a bar, but she's not making enough money, and then there's a tattoo shop right next door where Dare works, and she meets him, and he's like really mean to her at first, and it's the whole grumpy sunshine thing again, but he's immediately intrigued by her. He tries to hide it, but he ends up hiring her to work at his tattoo shop because she needs more money. So they're like working together. He's so protective of her. They both have their traumas too, so obviously there's drama with that. Then The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. This is the first book in the Element series. I'm pretty sure all of them are small town romances. I really tried to get into the series, and it was just not for me. Like, I didn't love it, but I feel like it's still something I should recommend because so many people love it, and I did read it, and it is a small town romance. This one I did finish, but I started and DNF'd all the rest of the books in the series, which it sounds so bad to say that because I feel bad, but I did finish this one. So Elizabeth moves to a small town with her daughter after her husband passes away, I believe. She moves next door to Tristan, and everyone in the town is like, oh my god, he's literally so weird and dangerous, just stay away from him. And she's like immediately like, that intrigues me, I want to get to know him. That whole thing. He's super closed off and reserved and shy, but he'll randomly like do something really nice for her, and you can see that he like has a soft spot for her. He's just really closed off though, and he has a lot of trauma, and it takes him a while to open up, but he eventually only opens up to her, and no one else really knows what's going on with him or why he is the way that he is. And they're both like really damaged and empty, and honestly have very similar pasts, so it makes sense that they found each other and like help each other and fall in love. So that's The Air He Breathes. And then this is the last book. I can't even give a synopsis on it because I'm about to start it, but I wanted to include in this video because I know it's this trope, and everyone talks so highly of it that you convinced me to read it. This is Part of Your World. It looks really cute. The cover's like half and half, which makes me think they're gonna be very different, and like hers has a city vibe and his has like a barn and a goat. I don't know, but this is the book I'm starting today, so I thought I would include it. She's super rich apparently, and he's from a small town. I read The Friend Zone by this author and I loved it, so I have high hopes for this. You'll definitely hear me talk about it soon if I do enjoy it, and I'm assuming I will. But that's the last book I'm gonna be talking about in today's video. If you have any other small town romances, comment them down below so people can also get those recommendations as well as myself. But I hope you got some good book recommendations from this video. If you love small town romances, which I'm sure you do if you clicked on this video and you're watching it still. But thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow me on my other social medias, they're all linked down below as always. I'll be doing more book recommendations, reading vlogs, wrap-ups, stuff like that soon. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in my next one very, very soon. Bye!